what are existing industry best practices when it comes to combating DNS abuse?
Right. So maybe I'll start because I have lots of thoughts about best practices and work that needs to be done. But maybe I'll start with some of the impediments to getting there. And especially for this audience, I'll say that language is a huge impediment. I'm running this institute. Everything I'm doing is in English, and I'm well aware that we need to be better at internationalizing what we're working on and translating what we're working on. But all of the tools that I've looked at and all of the algorithms I've been looking at for understanding and measuring and detecting DNS abuse, they're all very Anglo-centric. They're really all in English. And that's kind of not good enough. And so we really need to work on that. The other sort of strong difficulty in the space is domain names are an extremely competitive industry. It's the same product, regardless of the registrar around the world. And so everybody's competing really on price and the other services that they might be offering with it. And if someone doesn't like your price, they can go literally to any other registrar in the world. And boy, is that like a difficult hurdle when we're trying to get people to build friction into their registration processes to try and capture abusive registrations. That becomes a real sticking point. So for best practices, not a lot exists right now for some of those reasons. I was talked about one that I put out last week on identifying malicious registrations. Hopefully that will be helpful, and I'll make sure I get that to you, Jianrong, so that you can help circulate it, please and thank you. And we'll look at getting that translated too. There's a few documents that the registrar stakeholder group has put out that might be helpful for people, and you can find those at rrsg.org. And I think they'll have a documents or something like that section around how to report abuse. But in terms of specifying like what a registry or registrar should be doing or could be doing, there's not a lot out there, and that's one of the reasons that I'm, running this institute. I would say, everybody needs to start with understanding if they're operating a registry or registrar, their contractual obligations. Take a good look at what's in your contract. I will say that those contracts are ambiguous, but I think the writing is on the wall that we need to be doing more about DNS abuse. And so I think, going back to my pollution metaphor earlier, that we all have some ethical obligations, that if we're going to participate in creating new stuff on the internet, of making money from domain names, then we have an ethical obligation to ensure that we're doing our part to keep the internet safe. And as a part of that, boy, voluntary is better than mandatory. And so coming together, working on these best practices collectively, engaging hopefully with myself and the Institute, with ICANN, on coming up with creative solutions to reduce these harms, doing that ourselves is almost always going to be better than governments coming in and trying to tell us how to do that, or having ICANN compliance knocking on your door every day. I guess the message here is that we, that last point of collaboration, which is there's lots of work to be done. There's lots of low-hanging fruit in this space. I'm here dedicated to making this better for all of us. Boy, I hope everybody will come join me and listen to what we're putting out, participate in building new best practices, and hopefully making this better for everybody.
Yeah, Graham, you raised some very good points. Like the difficulties and a lot of the issues we're looking at right now. The tools are in English, whereas within the community here in this region, English is not the main language for most of us. I think that really gives us some food for thought, and also some potential problem statements for when we get together in March. I think we'll definitely try to invite you back and think of how to scope a discussion around some of these issues that we've raised.